I'm Don Williams, Associate Director from Cadent, and with me, I have the pleasure of sitting with Larisa Johnson, VP and Global Head of Brand and Growth and Strategy at the NBA.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here with
Nice to meet you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you taking the time. I know it's been a busy day.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat.
Yeah. So figure we can jump right into a couple of things. I'd love to get your insight. I know you have a great deal of experience in this industry, so just want to start off with, talking about your time at the NBA. I know it's an incredibly popular brand, of course, millions of fans globally. I'm curious to see how does that expansive reach ultimately shape your marketing and sort of brand strategy when trying to connect with those key consumers?
Yeah. So whenever we're starting to ideate and kick off a campaign, we always think about how it's going to look globally, how we can localize it, with everything from the messaging to the players featured, to the products that are included. So it's always top of mind for us in everything that we do. It's truly a global brand, and I think a lot of folks sometimes don't realize that, but number 2 in the world after soccer, so.
That actually leads perfectly to the next question, because as a personal fan of the NBA and the league, something that's been interesting to see is the expansion of the league globally and internationally. And it seems like that's more and more of a focus for the league. And so I would love to kind of get your take, if you can share any insight in terms of what the growth of the league outside of the US looks like, and how that what your approach is from a brand marketing perspective to help with that endeavor.
Yeah. No, we've been seeing a ton of growth. The NBA is in over 200 countries now. As platforms and consumption continue to shift, we actually see huge growth there globally. So over 75% of our followers are on social or international, over 50% of people who use the app, over 30% of people who subscribe to League Pass. So, digitally, performance-wise, acquisition-wise, it's a huge focus for us across every region, EMEA, APAC, Africa, et cetera.
Yeah. And to that point too, the industry as a whole is ever evolving. And I feel like fans now are able to engage with the NBA in ways that they never were able to before. Would love to kind of know some of your insights around some of the key tactics and channels that you guys lean into when trying to reach that key consumer, whether it be in the US or abroad.
Yeah, so a lot of the media that I buy is more domestically focused, but we do some digital acquisition globally. So first and foremost, domestically, when it comes to staying top of mind with our fans and driving linear viewership, we fish where the fish are. We do a lot of linear TV, really cherry picking certain placements that we know will drive attention. But as the landscape shifts, we shift our spend. So a lot of CTV, I would say that's our fastest growing channel. Digital, of course. Social is huge, especially with our Gen Z fans and following the trends on how they consume media. And then acquisition-wise, of course, digital, but CTV, again, growing exponentially. And because we're doing upper funnel work there now, like figuring out how we can sequentially message off that and retarget audiences and drive, installs, subscriptions, et cetera. That's been hugely successful for us.
For sure. You mentioned targeting being a sort of key approach there from the CTV perspective. I feel like more and more brands are centering data as a part of their strategy, whether that's leveraging first-party data or custom third-party segments and sort of navigating through privacy regulations. I'm curious to see kind of what the NBA's approach is with leveraging data and analytics as a part of their strategy. Are there any sort of insights that you could share there as far as how that plays a role in the bigger picture for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. So we are lucky to have a great wealth of data at our disposal. There's so many touch points that people can interact with the NBA. So not only do we have all that first-party data, we have great data partnerships with a lot of partners of the NBA, from Fanatics to Nike, across the board. And so what we're able to do with all of these different signals is start to group them. So, we'll create our core and casual fans, but one of the new things that we're doing that I'm really excited about is grouping some of these touch points into more kind of cultural audiences. So sneakerheads, gamers, sports bettors, a lot of those concentric interests to the NBA. And we've seen a ton of success with that. We've seen, 50% plus improvements to engagement rate, a lot of great delivery at a lower funnel. So I think we'll continue that strategy and just continuing to build out and test more audiences.
For sure. And speaking of audiences too, I feel like the NBA as a whole has an incredibly diverse audience. I think about even in my personal life, my friends and family who engage with the NBA or are fans of it range from a wide range of age, ethnicity, interests, lifestyles. Would love to kind of get your take or perspective on how to build an effective, purpose-led marketing strategy, understanding that the NBA does take that as a part of sort of their core values, my understanding as a fan. So we'd love to kind of get your insight on that.
Yeah, it's important for us to be accessible to all fans, no matter your age, ethnicity, where you live, your income. So we really try to be everywhere, which is hard, especially as a brand. But, how do we stay on every touch point for every kind of consumer, whether it be an older fan, who has the traditional cable at home, or the younger fan who's mainly on social looking for those highlights and access to players and things like that. So, it's not a dull job, but we're trying to be everywhere to everybody.
Absolutely. Because I feel like even when I think about some of the key audiences, Gen Z and millennials being some of the biggest sort of viewers of the NBA and sports in general, would love to kind of understand, given how they are now consuming media, whether it's the NBA, WNBA, across social media platforms and non-linear networks, what are some of the ways that you're ultimately engaging with those consumers, and sort of how does that approach impact your sort of strategy from like an influencer marketing perspective?
Yeah. All good questions.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
All good questions. No, I mean, number one, props to our organic social team and our content team. I think we're one of the number one brands on many of those platforms. And so from a marketing perspective, then being able to leverage those fan bases and help expand from there, I'm really focused on looking at how people are using it in different ways. Like I recently saw a stat that Gen Z uses TikTok as like a search bar more than they use Google, which is crazy. But then I remember a couple years ago when that was Meta and everyone, used that as their search engine, if you will. So just trying to follow those trends and capitalize on that interest. And then influencers, of course, play a huge role. Our players are influencers in and of themselves, but also thinking about all the influencers that can help broaden our reach kind of in those concentric lifestyle areas, people that have natural interest in the sport, whether it be Twitch gamers, playing 2K, female basketball influencers. I feel like that's a huge upcoming segment. And I think that influencer content we see do really well, like above your traditional like ad on a place, like TikTok or Instagram, which makes sense.
Yeah, I'm guilty of using TikTok in ways that I never expected I would, so I can understand that for sure. I do have one final question for you. Just kind of curious, looking ahead, are there any sort of marketing trends that excite you the most, or that we can expect or see the NBA sort of lean into? Anything that comes to mind that's worth sharing?
Yeah, in the spirit of trying to be available to all different types of fans and staying on top of different types of platforms, we were a launch partner with Apple's Vision Pro. We've done a lot in the AR, VR space. We were in the metaverse. So continuing to just figure out where people are consuming our content and make sure that we're there. Also, I'd be remiss as a media person if I didn't mention generative AI. We've obviously been using AI in the media space for 10 plus years, powering all of our algorithms and optimizations. But now that the rest of the industry is really talking about AI, how to bring it to the forefront of what we do. And then I think last but not least, like my personal soft spot, out of home, and we have a fun brand for that. So like in the last year, we've looked at the landscape and we've taken over vacant storefronts in like downtown Manhattan and streamed games. We have turned bus stops into fan experiences and like taken arena seats in there. And so just continuing to figure out what we can do there as well.
Love that. I love the brand. I love what you guys are doing as far as reaching those consumers, myself included. But that's really all I have for right now. But it was a pleasure talking with you.
Pleasure
and thank you
as well.
for the time. I appreciate it.
Of course.